Hi, Chapter Master Tim is here, and welcome to Kamen Check. The star of Kamen Rider Agito is Shoichi Tsugami, a youthful amnesic man of 21 years old, who changes into Kamen Rider Agito to battle the unknown while retrieving his lost memories as Tetsuya Saaki. Shoichi briefly assumed the identity of Kamen Rider G3X as one of its test users to exhibit the G3X suit's enhanced fighting capabilities. The younger brother of Yukina Saaki, who fell in love with the real Shoichi Tsugami, is Tetsuya Saaki. Yukina and Tsugami took part in a study on human paranormal talents performed by Professor Nobuyuki Kazaya, Mana's father. Yukina discovered that she was the subject of the study because she had these skills. They pursued a romantic relationship, but when her abilities developed signifying that she was becoming an Agito, she killed herself. Tetsuya tried to get in touch with Tsugami after learning about his sister's suicide, and his search took him on board a ship called the Akatsuki. Tetsuya sought for Tsugami in vain, not knowing that he had already committed suicide. Instead, he finds a young man's lifeless body, who later exposes himself to be the Overlord of Light. The deity awakened Tetsuya as the second Agito before vanishing just as the L of Water arrived after detecting that his brother had sent one of his emissaries to the boat. The L attacks Tetsuya after recognizing his churning power, but just as the decisive blow was about to be delivered, Tetsuya first became Agito. Tetsuya was thrown overboard after the fight, where the authorities declared him to be lost at sea. Tetsuya, however, had managed to live and had washed up on the coast with amnesia. Following the name on the letter in his possession, he assumed the pseudonym of Shoichi Tsugami, who had passed away at the time, and was later discovered by 3 schoolgirls. He was then taken to the hospital by Dr. Higashi Kunita for treatment. Now Shoichi, Tetsuya would be cared for by Dr. Kunita for a while before being sent to Masugi. There he would have a tranquil, largely normal existence without worrying about whether or not he would remember his history. That is, until the Jaguar Lord Panthers Letus brought him back to life as Agito. Shoichi, however, was acting in a feral manner at the time, striking G3 only to recollect himself before delivering the fatal blow. Shoichi was terrified of the changes following the occurrence, but the knowledge that he belonged somewhere gave him the strength to utilize his newly discovered power to defend people he had made friends with Mana being the only member of the Masugi family to be aware of Shoichi's transformation. Shoichi meets Tomoko Miura, one of the Akatsuki's surviving members, by chance. She later calls him and asks him to meet her the following day at East Park to get the answers he needs. But because Tomoko was killed, Shoichi never gets to see her, which leads to his being charged with her murder. He was later exonerated when Mana pointed Hikawa to the Overlord, who was the real murderer. On Mana's birthday, Shoichi tries to save her from the Scorpion Lord Lee Urasakusha, but ends up getting poisoned. Thankfully, he received treatment in time, and he eventually kills the unknown. Later, by coincidence, during his battle with Gills, Shoichi falls into the reservoir and briefly regains his memory, retrieving a sizable amount of his memories and meeting Tetsuya. The regained memories were sufficient for Shoichi to enter his Trinity form, but before he could advance farther, his amnesia eventually returned. The L of the Water, who pursued Shoichi at every turn, would reappear in front of him after innumerable confrontations. Ultimately, his spirit of resistance was crushed by the fear and anxiety of facing his killer. However, with Mana's assistance, Shoichi found his courage again and used the vicious burning form to vanquish the L. It took him a while to adjust to his power's continual evolution. When Dr. Kunita, his former caregiver, paid him a visit, Shoichi changed into Agito burning form, losing control in a fit of wrath, and unintentionally attacked him. Shoichi's soul was burdened by the accident's shame as he gave in to self-loathing and sulked over his behavior. But because of Dr. Kunita's harsh love, he was able to overcome his embarrassment and come to terms with the fact that he was an Agito. Dr. Kunita's advice gave him the clarity of mind and heart he needed to achieve shining form and vanquish the Beetle Lord by reminding him to stay true to himself and the worth of his life. When the L of the Water returns stronger than before, this new belief and shape will be crucial. Because of its existence, Shoichi was able to regain his memory and defeat his enemy for good in their final confrontation. After regaining his memory and telling his foster family about his background and real name, Shoichi makes the decision to stay with them and carry on living as Shoichi Tsugami. Everything went according to plan until Mana tries to inquire about her deceased father from Shoichi, who was the last person her father had contact with before his death. These occurrences have led to the unexpected realization that Nobuyuki Kazaya's death was actually caused by Shoichi's sister, albeit accidentally since she was unable to control the Agito power. As a result, Shoichi is starting to question the Agito power he possesses and thinks he ought to remain permanently amnesic. When Mana finally starts to despise him, the situation just becomes worse, and Shoichi eventually decides he no longer wants the Agito power and voluntarily gives it to the Overlord. After regaining his memory and telling his foster family about his background and real name, Shuichi makes the decision to stay with them and carry on living as Shuichi Tsugami. Everything went according to plan until Mana tries to inquire about her deceased father from Shuichi, who was the last person her father had contact with before his death. These occurrences have led to the unexpected realization that Nobuyuki Kazuya's death was actually caused by Shuichi's sister, albeit accidentally since she was unable to control the Agito power. As a result, Shuichi is starting to question the Agito power he possesses and thinks he ought to remain permanently amnesic. When Mana finally starts to despise him, the situation just becomes worse, and Shuichi eventually decides he no longer wants the Agito power and voluntarily gives it to the Overlord. Shuichi, however, couldn't allow the Lords to go on their murderous activities as Erisius Liquor starts to target Mana. The Lord's quill then unintentionally strikes Shuichi, but Kino manages to save him before the wound results in death. When Shuichi and the group got on the scene, the Overlord confronted them and decided to execute them all. Shuichi races to the Overlord and is able to hit him with a punch thanks to Hikawa's assistance. Mana, who had discovered the truth through Ryo, encourages Shuichi to resume fighting as Agito. Finally, Ryo, Kino, and Shuichi all regain their own powers. They defeat the Hedgehog Lord collectively. Later, he runs across Kuramoto, his former cooking instructor, who offers him a position in his restaurant. As the number of phantom killings is down, Shuichi accepts the position under his mentor. While employed there, he meets Kana, a reclusive young woman who longs to become a successful chef in memory of her father. However, Kana starts to exhibit characteristics of an Agito herself. Like Shuichi's sister, she tries to terminate her life because she can't accept the change. As the past starts to repeat itself, Shuichi desperately clings to Kana. However, just as he is about to give up, Tetsuya Saaki, the true Shuichi Tsugami and Yukina's revived former lover, steps in and assists Shuichi in saving Kana while atoning for not saving Yukina from the same fate earlier. In response to the El of Earth confronting the group, Shuichi changes in front of Kana and begs to fight for himself, for humanity, and for the Agitos. As Agito fights the El on, the Lord in ground and burning forms overwhelms him, but he manages to fatally wound the El in shining form. Agito then pursued El after she had fled and found the Overlord, who was attempting to exterminate all humanity. When Hikawa and Ryo finally show up to help him, he is ultimately defeated by the combined might of the enhanced El of Earth and El of Wind. Shuichi then enters Agito's shining form for the final time and engages the Overlord in a final battle to recapture humanity's fate. Agito continues to assault the Overlord after easily defeating the El of Earth with a Shining Rider kick, setting up a massive explosion and leaving both of their fates unknown. Shuichi, however, has been shown to be alive. In the conclusion to the series, Shuichi launches the Agito, a new restaurant. If you like my content, consider giving a like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. If you have any suggestions on what TV shows or movies about tokusatsu, mecha, or kaiju, leave a comment down below. I would like to hear your thoughts. This is your boy Chapter Master Timus, and I'll see you around.